Hey there, today I'm going to be reviewing the brand Made with Plants, in particular their ready-made meals. So this is a relatively newcomer to the market, and as the name suggests, they are aiming to create ready-made meals that are using plant-based foods. So suitable for vegans, vegetarians, or people who simply just want to reduce their overall plant intake. These products are only available at Woolworths. You'll find them in the fresh food aisle, ironically near the meat section, and they're $9 for a 400 gram meal, so a decent sized portion. Now, I feel like I am going to get on my soapbox when I do this review because for me, this brand and their ready-made meals highlights a flaw in the food manufacturing industry, particularly in those trying to cater for vegans or vegetarians with meat-like food. We're starting to see more and more of these manufacturers coming out in play, and we're eating a lot more of this Frankenstein lab-made food that is actually not going to give us any health benefits. In fact, it can compromise our health. But stick with me. In this review, I'm just going to be talking about the ingredients and some of the reasons why I actually really dislike these ready-made meals, and also talk about the macronutrient balance and how they taste and how they stack up against some of the other vegan and vegetarian friendly meal providers out there. So from a nutrition point of view, the Made with Plants ready-made meals highlights a big flaw in our food manufacturing industry, in particular with brands trying to mimic meat products in their meals. So Made with Plants are aiming to recreate some of those classics. Beef stroganoff, meatballs, butter chicken. These are some of their meals that are available. Now, obviously, they're not using meat. They're using meatless products to create the same textures, the flavors, the look, and the appeal. Here's where we come across a bit of a hurdle. In order to do that, Made with Plants have chosen to use soy or seitan as their main ingredient to recreate that meat product. In most of the meals, it's soy mixed with, say, a flour and water. And I don't have an issue with soy per se, but I do have an issue with manufacturers using genetically modified soy, which is most of the soy on the market, and not opting for organic or fermented soy like tofu or tempeh as their main protein source. Because Made with Plants haven't highlighted that they're using non-GMO or organic soy, you can only assume that they are using a poorer quality of the genetically modified soy. This has been linked with a lot of health issues, as you would have seen from some of my other videos where I talk about this in a little bit more detail. Now, the other form of protein to recreate this meat texture they use is seitan. Now, seitan is just a highly concentrated gluten product. So this is where manufacturers mix refined flour and water to create that texture. One thing people do like is that it is high in protein. The other thing, it does suit those who do have a soy allergen. But being highly concentrated gluten, it is associated with a lot of gastrointestinal issues, in particular that intestinal permeability picture that we see, which you might know as leaky gut. So while yes, it does tick the box from a protein point of view, it can have some health damaging effects that I simply don't think it's worth eating. There are lots of plant-based protein sources out there, such as the fermented tofu and tempeh, quinoa, you've got legumes, nuts and seeds. These are all great protein sources that don't require the use of animal products and are whole foods. That would be a much better option. The other thing that I found surprising and really disappointing is that you've got a product that is labeled Made with Plants, yet it doesn't have that many vegetables and really lacks diversity when it comes to vegetables. but they're recreating meals that typically don't use lots of vegetables, such as the butter chicken, which is generally served with rice, or the stroganoff. Yes, it does have the mushrooms in there, but not a lot of leafy greens. So they've really, for me, missed out on an opportunity. We know that they also have a lot of inflammatory ingredients in these meals as well. We've got vegetable oils, we have artificial enhancers, emulsifiers, thickeners, firming agents, colors, sugars, refined flours. So it's really not going to be a whole food meal. So from a macro point of view, they are high in protein, which is pretty good for a vegetarian meal. So the average is about 23 grams per serve. But remember where this protein is coming from. It's not coming from a whole food, which is really disappointing. And you won't get those 9 essential amino acids from eating seitan. The carbohydrate content varies quite considerably depending on which meal you choose, from about 5.8 to about 33%. And from the fat point of view, you're looking at around 15 to 32 grams. The dietary fiber is particularly low. This reflects the fact that they haven't actually used a lot of whole food plant products in there. So it isn't going to be really ticking the boxes for me in terms of macronutrient balance, apart from the fact that it has a good serve of protein, but I question the source. From a taste point of view, this is where it really goes sharply downhill for me. The made with plants meals are actually not enjoyable at all. In fact, the beef stroganoff and the meatballs were actually inedible. Just looking at the meatballs after I microwaved, as you can see in this image here, was really off-putting, and I just simply did not like the texture at all. The butter chicken was very gelatinous, that texture. It kind of looks like butter chicken pieces, and the sauce is really smoky and does remind you of what you would expect from a butter chicken, but as you progress through the meal, it's really not enjoyable. The chili con carne was also a bit out of whack in terms of the balance between the chili and the rice. So it was more of a rice dish with a bit of chili-like flavour thrown through the meal, but it didn't pack a punch at all, so it was a bit disappointing. I just thought that on the whole, Made with Plants really have missed out on a great opportunity. You know, their packaging looks really vibrant and visually appealing. And as I said, as a nutritionist, I am always encouraging people to include more plant foods in their diet and eat less meat where possible, but still making sure they're meeting their nutrient requirements, in particular protein. But Made with Plants here have gone, I'm going to mimic a meat-based meal with a highly refined manufactured ingredient, and for me, they've totally missed the mark. So I will definitely not be eating these again. I give them a 1 out of 5 purely for the fact that they are convenient and they are affordable, but that's as good as it's going to get from me.